I'm not sure if I'll have somebody that's able to video and really watch the testimony. So I'm going to do a practice run with this and read my testimony and send it to you. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus. I celebrate victory over depression, rape, smoking cigarettes, self-worth, and 2 days shy of my 1-year victory over alcohol. My name's Carol Ann. Let us pray. Dear God, as it says in Psalms 119:46, I will speak of thy testimonies also before kings and will not be ashamed. Please be by my side as I share my testimony with my family, friends, and guests today. I ask that you calm my nerves and comfort those that this testimony may touch. Amen. I am a daughter, a sister, friend, wife, mother, and I've been an insurance agent, a PTA president, a volunteer, a restaurant owner. Addiction's not prejudice. It can and will continue to affect anyone at any time. I was born in 1966 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I had young parents. My mother was 21 and my father was 25. My sister was 3 when I was born. We moved to New Jersey when I was 6, and my parents divorced about a year later. My mother later remarried a man with 6 children and had my brother when I was 11 in Stuart, Florida. And then we moved back to New Jersey when I was 13 for a couple of years. My first rape experience was by a young serviceman when I was 13, traveling by a Greyhound bus with my sister back to New Jersey from Florida the summer of 1980, after visiting our father. He convinced my sister and I to call our parents to tell them we missed the bus and that the next one was not until morning. I told him no when he began to touch me inappropriately. He was not forceful, but was persistent, and I was in a knee brace and had crutches and did not know how to stand up for myself. I was told to keep it a secret because we lied to my parents and we did not want to get in trouble. And I also figured it was my own fault for not fighting back or trying to leave. My second experience was when I was 16. My brother and I were in the modeling business, and my mother took us for a movie audition in Fort Lauderdale, where we had now lived. It was 1983, the middle of summer and extremely hot out. We met a man in the line. He gave my mother a business card and convinced her he could assist in my modeling and acting career. We left and did not follow through with the audition, and the following day he picked me up at the house. I felt uncomfortable from the minute we pulled away. I never was good at speaking up. When he stopped for gas, I wanted to run, and I wanted someone to notice that I was not comfortable. I was repeatedly raped by him. I do not know how long. I know it was early morning when I was picked up, and it was dark when I returned. I did not fight. I just prayed he would take me home, which he eventually did. I do not remember what happened after that. I do not think I told anybody. I felt dirty, ashamed, and confused. My last experience was from age 16 to 17, my senior year, by my friend's stepfather, which was also my boss and lived across the street from us. I worked alone with him in the cleaning business after hours, but after the hours of the businesses, cleaning banks and gyms. I had a low self-esteem and was flattered at first when he would flirt. I felt safe with him since he was my friend's stepdad and lived across the street. It was not long before I realized his intentions were more, and I felt very uncomfortable. For some reason, I felt too embarrassed to say no, or funny about making him feel like the jerk. He would take me for drinks in local restaurants before working. I could never understand why the waitresses or the patrons did not think this was strange. Once again, I did not fight, walk away, or tell anyone until it was way far into it and I felt trapped. He said he was part of a mob and threatened to have my family's home blow up with them in it if I left him or if I told. I begged my mother to not turn him in because I was afraid of him following through with this threat, and I did not want the court system to make me out to be at fault. Every day was full of anxiety from seeing him when I would walk in and out my door, wondering if the home I was in would blow up with me in it. It was not until I had my own daughters I realized he was wrong, and not until step study that I fully believed I should have no part in the guilt of these actions that took place. These events I shared are not excuses. They are chapters in my life. These chapters had purpose, as all the events in my life create purpose and direction to shape the person I am today and have yet to become. Celebrate Recovery was my first step study. I began step study to continue in my commitment to sobriety and to find my life's purpose with my past hurts and addictions. I was not born drinking alcohol. However, I was born with the DNA for the disease. I eventually knew that fact and put the brake on my drinking many times with that in mind. I began stuffing my past hurts with trying to be perfect. Perfection became my focus, my goal, and my distraction from things in the past. I married my husband Dave in 1991. We have 3 children. Brittany, now 30, Courtney, 27, and Connor, 22. I decided I will be the perfect wife, mom, volunteer. I will excel at any job I do. I will do this by staying thin, well-mannered, no cursing, no temper, well-groomed. My children will be happy and well-behaved. My cabinets will always be wiped down, and the ceiling fans to the baseboards are always going to be clean. Laundry and ironing will stay caught up. All the neighborhood kids will want to hang out at our house because we bake, we do crafts, and it's fun. The adults will love coming over because I will be a great hostess. I will volunteer so my kids know I'm around and care, and the teachers notice that I'm involved. I will even push mow that lawn with a child on one hip so the husband will have the weekends free. And then I'll cook dinner and work nights to help contribute to the family income. I wanted to make it so my husband would be a fool to ever want anyone else. It became exhausting. And that behavior just becomes expected by everyone. God works in ways we don't often see immediately. Shortly after turning 35, some crazy medical issues were happening to me. I would be fine most of the night at work. Then by the time I was ready to clock out, I would be in such pain it brought me to tears, wondering how I would walk from the restaurant to the car. I even went to the hospital a few times after work, only to be sent home with crutches. And then by the next day, nothing hurt. I thought I was losing my mind and struggled with disbelief and shame. It was extremely aggressive. I used to do so much. I felt so ashamed of the struggle it took to complete a task. In December, I woke up with what appeared to be an egg under my skin on my wrist. This is what led me to getting to a rheumatologist and eventually being diagnosed with aggressive progressive rheumatoid arthritis. It was difficult to communicate what my pain was like to others. I looked perfectly normal, but was exhausted and felt like I had broken joint when I was flared up. I could not understand why I could not push through this pain and fatigue. I actually still struggle with that. There are no glowing red lights to show everyone you're having pain. With RA, our immune system mistakes a person's own tissues as foreign invaders. In the case of RA, it attacks the synovium, which is the membrane that surrounds the joints. It eats away the membrane and eventually causes bone on bone. With proper medications, you can slow the progression. Finding the right combinations of medications, however, can take years of trial and error because a combination is different for everyone. The disease can also affect the entire body. Your skin, your eyes, your lung, your heart, your kidneys, your blood vessels, your nerve tissues, and bone marrow. So in my case, it ended up being a snowball effect of other medical discoveries because you're constantly having blood tests, x-rays, and scans done. They found a spot on my lung. They discovered I had hematomacrosis, endometriosis, the onset of an eye disease, fibromyalgia. I had to wear a heart monitor and came down with carpal tunnel in both wrists twice over the years. I had 3 children, worked, volunteered, and juggling my doctor appointments as well as the kids' doctor's appointments. Today I say God was just trying to say, slow down. You are missing what is right in front of you. You're seeking praise in all the wrong ways and the wrong places. My blinders were up. If I put down those blinders, I may feel the things I have been stuffing away, and I'd see reality. I found when my flare-ups were unbearable, alcohol would take enough edge off that I could fall asleep. A little home remedy. But that put the weight on, and I decided I was not ready to relinquish that control. I will bear the pain. My father would make fun of overweight people and comment on my shape a lot. My father, stepfather, husband, and most grown men at the time admired the girls in Playboy. So brakes on the alcohol. It was not difficult to stop at that time because I had control in other areas of my life, and I would throw up if I didn't stop at 2 or 3 drinks. We began hanging with a new large group of friends that we made through my son's years in sports and my husband coaching. This group knew how to party. Even our neighbor was always having a party. I couldn't get away from it. These women could drink me way under the table, but they could stay looking fit, beautiful, and afford to eat out a lot and take multiple mini vacations. I honestly could not compete or keep up. We broke away from most of the group and began attending church again. I always had a thirst for religion, but had questions and wanted direction and answers. My questions were not well received with the Catholic priests when I was younger, and caused a wall to go up from reaching out to any church. While here at Covenant Fellowship, I would find myself wallowing up every time I sat through a sermon on a Sunday of Matt's. I felt like Pastor Matt was in my head. I'm pretty sure I even texted him about that. I bought a restaurant. The busiest day of breakfast and lunch cafe is Sunday, so going to church stopped. I was working for Wells Fargo from the home at the time, so I was able to hold on to that income while running the restaurant because I could work any hour, any place, as long as I had Wi-Fi. The restaurant became an easy way to let my guard down with the drinking again. I was not trying to keep up with anyone or feel like we could not keep up with the Joneses. No judging now. I was running a restaurant, holding down another job. At the end of the day, I was entitled to that glass of wine. Oh my goodness, that felt so good. Phew, that feeling of release. It tasted better than ever before. I was not social drinking now. I was not trying to keep up. It was just a glass of wine at the end of the day. Ah, my sweet reward. Hey, I earned this and I'm entitled to it. I'm working 7 days a week, 2 jobs, and not even taking a penny yet from the restaurant. The wine was my small pay at the end of the day. 1 glass of wine, 7 days a week. We all know that eventually it was not always just 1 glass, and eventually it was never just 1. Suddenly I thought, darn, my pants are getting tight, so I put on the brakes for a short while with the drinking again. Then things started happening. A layoff with Wells Fargo, employee issues, partner issues, finances. Catering jobs and cake orders are coming in. I'm in by 5:30 a.m. and not leaving till 7 or 8 p.m. when our restaurant closes at 4 o'clock. I need that feeling again without the weight gain. So I decided I'll switch to vodka, less sugar. I learned that trick from the group of ladies that used to drink me under the table and stay thin. The weight stayed off, but I was getting drunk way too easy and was now not able to stop at just 1. Someone close to me, working by my side, said, "You're so much easier to talk to when you drink. You're easier to get along with. I like hanging out with you when you had some drinks." Little did I know at the time it was a distraction, so I would not take notice to another issue close by. I was just excited that they enjoyed spending time with me. So back to the wine, so I could drink more and last longer while doing the late nights, working on cakes and catering orders, or even just prepping for the following day. My control issues shifted over to keeping a full-time job I had taken at the high school together and my restaurant afloat. My control over my weight didn't even matter now. I did not like the weight gain, but the alcohol consumption was much more important right now. My drinking now has spiraled out of control. I could drink a whole magnum of wine by myself within a 4-hour or less span. For those of you that don't know, that's equivalent to 2 regular bottles of wine. When I would finish my shift at the school for the day, I would head to the restaurant to do paperwork, prepping, scheduling, and drink before heading home. I was a full-blown, functioning alcoholic. I was getting behind the wheel to drive home from the restaurant while you and your family, your teenage children, your parents, siblings, were on that same road. By the grace of God, I never received a DUI and I never harmed anyone. Insanity has now entered my soul. The alcohol was now my priority and my best friend. The energy put into getting or hiding the alcohol use was more exhausting than playing the Be Perfect game. But I didn't care because the disease was in control of me now. I would even bring home a normal-sized bottle of wine to have a glass, so my husband thought that's where the wine smell came from, and only think I'm drinking 1 or 2 glasses. The husband knew. I showed signs of heavy eyes, a sloppy walk, slurred my speech, repeated things. I'm not even aware of all the signs I showed to this day. He would beg me, please, I don't care if you have a drink. Just come home first. Don't drink and drive. I would promise not to only get a bit sneakier instead of sticking to my promise. My drinking gave me the liquid courage to tell my business partner, which was my sister, and family members how I really felt. I just became a loose tongue, full of resentment, hate, anger, and self-righteousness, expecting them to listen, telling them that they just did not like that I finally had a voice and I was speaking up for myself. One of my daughters was working at a drug rehabilitation center as a counselor, and I just felt babysat by her. My blinders were not going to allow me to see or accept how anyone else felt or realize what they were seeing. This addiction was now my priority to protect. The bottle was non-judgmental. It was a non-judgmental friend that I did not want it taken away. It was my comfort. It was my pain relief. It was my pity pot, my reward. And as I emptied that bottle, I could stuff any past or present problems into that bottle and then throw them out. So I thought. My daughter would call me out, and I would also make promises to her to drink less, not drink and drive, to only break the promises. And then I would leave her wondering how she will help others if she can't even fix her own mother. I was mentally killing my daughter. And guess what? I was not in denial. I grew up around AA since I was 12, 35 plus years at this point of Alateen, Al-Anon, and AA meetings in my life. I know the program. Up to this point, it probably is part of my saving grace of not becoming an alcoholic sooner. I began playing mind games with myself. I carried an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other. I would tell myself, I do not want to feel like crap anymore. I don't want the husband and my children to be disgusted, disappointed, or annoyed with me anymore. I do not want to lose my family. I do not like the way I look anymore. The devil would remind me of my well-earned entitlement. I'm a grown adult. I'm not a sloppy drunk. I don't get naked and dance on tables or pass out drunk on the floor. I'm not hurting anyone. How will I relax if I quit? Have fun with friends and social gatherings and reward myself. Hell, I already quit smoking years ago. Now I must give up something else I enjoy for everyone. I was building up anger at anyone that wanted me to stop drinking, convincing myself that they are wrong and just in the way. They were only trying to take away what I thought was my only pleasure at the time. I eventually sold the restaurant, and the family and I thought this would be the answer to me drinking less. I even began to see a therapist. I told her my goal was to become a social drinker. Again, I remember her grin and then nicely saying that has never worked or turned out well. Then educating me on how alcohol changes your brain chemistry. And it is a progressive disease. And when I pick up one again, no matter how long I wait to pick that drink up, I will return right to where I left off and progress to worse quickly. Now I had entered the period of denial. I thought I would be different. I will be in control. Now I know denial is the core symptom of addiction. Denial not only with alcohol, but any hurts. I was also stuffing. But I would prove her wrong. I began with going days without drinking, and then only to binge drink. I could not just have one. I tried so hard to ignore that thought. I tried to lie to myself like I lied to everyone else about how many and how much. The problem was that I was the only one drinking the vodka. So when I would look at the bottle, I knew I was the one that emptied it. The sneaking, lying, and hiding got even worse. Any chance I could go to our cabin in Tennessee by myself, dog, or house sit for someone else, I would. Because there, I did not have to hide, lie, or sneak. I did not have to day drink. Because nobody would be home in the evening when I wanted to have a drink and be judging me. That just convinced me more that I only drank more because of everyone else. It was not my problem. It is everyone else's problem. At home, I began to have one bottle in view on the counter and the other hidden. So when nobody was looking, I could fill my drink from the hidden bottle, and everyone would think I'm not drinking much because the bottle on the counter is not gone. I would not leave my glass unattended if there was alcohol in it in fear that they would take a sip from it, especially if I was pretending to be drinking water. My son by now cannot stand talking to me because I repeat myself. One daughter hates her job because of me. The other daughter's trapped into staying neutral because I babysat her son for free. My husband dreaded coming home because he never knew who he was coming home to, a sober Carol Ann or a drunk Carol Ann. His cold shoulder made me drink more to stuff the loneliness, and my sloppy actions made him pull away even more. I felt more and more entitled, wondering why they cannot remember all the things I do for them. The great memories that I made, the lunches with notes, the hot homemade dinners, the well-thought-through birthday, graduation, and wedding gatherings, employing family members when they needed a job, babysitting. Are they going to wait until I die to recognize all the great things I have done or that I do? Do the accolades and flowers only surface after you're gone? Doesn't that count and give me entitlement? Have you each forgotten all I do and have done? My butt was so stuck inside the pity pot. I created great memories with my grandson while babysitting. But there unfortunately were occasions I did not wait for someone to come home or for him to go home before starting to drink. By the grace of God, nothing ever happened while I watched him. But the fact that I took the trust of my daughter and son-in-law that they placed in me to look after their son and risked his safety is unforgivable. My rock bottom is about to happen. Excuse me. I was babysitting my grandson. He always gets picked up around 3:30, 4 o'clock. And my son-in-law calls with a heads up that he is on his way. On June 1st, 2020, I watched my grandson all day. It was about 3 o'clock, and we decided to have a little pool time working on his swimming by himself before he was picked up. Just enough time that I could have a couple drinks before anyone comes home and not even have a buzz. I convinced myself this was safe. However, my son came home early. If my son suspected I was drinking, he would just avoid me normally. But he suspected, and I was home alone with my grandson and in the pool. So he played it cool, but took a sip of my drink while I was not paying attention. He asked, What's in the cup? It was a common question when any family member knew what was in the cup. I would usually lie, so out of habit my response began, water. And then I quickly added the word vodka, with a half guilty and a half smile, as if everything would just blow over. It went from 0 to 100. All hell broke loose. My son poured out the bottle of vodka in the house, brought it out to the pool area to give me the third degree while my grandson watched on. I was once again humiliated and knew more was to come from the rest of the family. It was the familiar scenario that should have been my rock bottom long ago. My son-in-law arrived in the middle of this. My husband came home and was filled in. The son was on the phone with one of my daughters, and the son-in-law, of course, filled in the other daughter. I cannot 100% say the steps from this point to the point of me locking myself in the spare room with my own handgun and my 230-pound, 6'2" son knocking down the door because he thought his mother was about to kill herself. I do know I was tired of disappointing, tired of being powerless over this addiction, tired of looking into the eyes of the family over and over when I would lie to them and let them down. I do not know if I was going to or would have taken my life that afternoon. But I do know I was desperate to be fixed, and I could not do this on my own. My son dropped to his knees at my feet like an infant, sobbed like I never heard him sob before. I heard the sob and scream and watched the tears run down his face, which is exactly where he would have also been if I pulled the trigger. I dropped. I held him and looked up to see my husband in the doorway, standing motionless with a blank stare and disbelief of what was transpiring. My son saw me go into the room with the gun, but my husband hadn't. This was my rock bottom. We made a lot of calls and did a lot of Googling that night with the help of one of my daughters. The next morning, my husband and I completed the calls and made a decision on where I would be going. On June 2nd, 2020, my husband drove me to White Sands Treatment Center in Plant City, Florida. I was able to drink a half a gallon of vodka a day and still walk. Within just an 8-year period, I went from not being able to drink more than 2 or 3 drinks without throwing up to this. I put my all into my time there. While in my room alone, I sobbed and I said, God, I'm powerless over this addiction and I need to put it in your hands. I surrender. I went to 8 meetings a day. I went to a therapist, a psychologist, a chiropractor, a regular doctor, ate on a regular schedule, and worked out in their gym. I did my homework. I wrote amend letters. I asked family and friends to write letters to me of how I affected them with my alcohol, so I could process them while I was in a controlled environment. I wrote a second amend letter after receiving their letters and having a Zoom meeting with them and my therapist. I needed to set my reset button. I messaged someone I knew for many years that I also knew she had many years of sobriety under her belt. That special person is Melissa. I asked her if she was willing to be my sponsor after explaining where I was and what I needed set up before I came home. Melissa didn't hesitate with a yes and instantly sent a book to the treatment center for me. We set a date to meet for brunch upon my return. Before returning home, I did ask my husband and son if they were ready for me to come home, or if they felt they needed more time to process and heal. I don't think they hesitated long, but it felt long to me. My heart was prepared for them to say they were not ready. I had gone through 30 days of therapy, but they hadn't gone through any therapy. So I knew all that pain that I caused was still in their hearts. During my Zoom meeting from the treatment center with the therapist and my husband, the therapist asked my husband why he never gave me a consequence. My husband responded with, because I was afraid her choice would be the alcohol. When the call ended, I said, I can't believe he thought I would choose alcohol over him. The therapist said, well, I looked at her and laughed, and I was going to deny that. But then I quickly flashed back at my alcoholic mind, and I thought, wow, I may have. I cried uncontrollably with that thought that my husband lived 8 years thinking his wife was choosing alcohol over him. And he loved me so much that he was hanging on with hope that I would come back. And with the knowledge of how close it came to alcohol being more important than the people I love. Reality check. What have I done? Not what has everyone else done to make me drink, but what have I done? I picked up the bottle. I chose the path. I made these decisions. I used to blame others and the circumstances. It was now clear I am responsible for the pain and suffering my loved ones were feeling. I could not lose sight that the family will need time to trust me again. My actions will have to earn it. Communication was going to be a huge priority to gain trust and to not fall off the track with my sobriety. Melissa met with me upon my return and quickly got me plugged in with CR. I did some Zoom meetings. I did Friday afternoons at AA. I called my therapist to tell her she was right, and I asked if I could return to seeing her once a week. And then I did CR on Monday nights. I was scared. I could not say more than my name at first, or I would feel like I was going to cry. I will admit I was not sure this was for me, but I saw too many people quit in treatment, and I knew I was serious about my sobriety. So I promised I would give it at least 3 meetings. I was confused because not everyone was an addict. So how would this work? I was feeling out of place. What I can tell you is that is why it works. You never know how your story, your hurts, your hang-ups, or your addiction will open a door in someone else or vice versa. Maybe someone that is there because their spouse is an alcoholic will hear from me what the alcoholic is feeling and thinking, or I may understand better how I made my family feel through them. We each find we are not alone in any of our past hurts or habits and celebrate recovery. There's not judgment. I was learning God never gave up on me. I found a pastor that took the time to answer questions and give me resources to find my own answers and trust the process. Then Melissa hit me with the suggestion of step study, a 9 to 12 month commitment. I was like, what? I already did the steps in treatment. Did it in 30 days, all 12 steps. And then I thought about it and said, fine, I got this. It'll be a breeze since I already did it. I knew that I was serious about staying sober and regaining the trust and the kind of love I longed for from the family. So I'm in. I was not going to fail myself, God, or the family. They never gave up on me. My thirst for faith was strong. I soon realized I did not do all the steps in treatment. Not like you really need to do the steps. This step study is life-changing for anyone that has a pulse. It amazingly gives you clarity, your own clarity, a clarity with God, with your addiction, with your hurts, your habits, and your actions. It is amazing how you have such aha moments doing the work with direction, but by yourself. I never drank to get drunk. I drank because I thought it was easier to deal with all and any pain I would feel or experience. I thought it made me brave, funny, and more likable. I may be broken, but I'm beautifully broken without the use of alcohol and with sobriety in my life. This is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. 2 Corinthians 12:10. I hope my testimony has touched someone and made someone aware of something you may want to change, or by just not feeling like you're alone anymore. It never was about how many drinks, how much I drank, or even how often I drank. If your actions are affecting you, loved ones in a negative way, if you're using an addiction to try to forget or distract you from something else, then this is your time for change. The change must start with you. It is never too late to make changes in your life and open your heart to God. If you surrender your past hurts, habits, and addictions and hang-ups to Him and ask Him to lead the way, you will be amazed at the journey He takes you on. Sometimes there will be obstacles, but if you do not lose the faith and you trust that process, the best is yet to come. If you suffer from any hurt, hang-up, or addiction, whatever weighs on your heart, and you need direction, change, or just to reconnect your faith, take the blue chip that they're going to offer you when I'm done to commit to your first step in change. Before I wrap it up, I want to thank my family, my friends, Melissa, Pastor Matt, all the CR family, and God for not giving up on me and supporting my recovery and bringing me to my 1-year victory with sobriety. Thank you for letting me share my journey with you, and I cannot wait to see what's next. Thanks.